You are not tired because you do too much. You are tired because you are giving your peace away to people who do not deserve it. It is a slow leak, an invisible drain on your life force, and you have been taught to call it loyalty, to call it kindness, to call it love. But the Stoics had a different name for it, a voluntary surrender of your inner citadel. There's a unique kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with lack of sleep. It's a weariness of the soul. It's the feeling of running a marathon while standing still. You might have a good life, a stable job, people who say they care about you, and yet you feel a constant, low-grade hum of anxiety, a sense of being perpetually on edge, depleted, as if you're carrying an invisible weight. We often blame ourselves for this feeling. We think we need more discipline, more gratitude, and a better morning routine. But what if the source of this drain isn't inside you at all? What if it's sitting right next to you? This isn't a journey about identifying villains or cutting people out of your life. It is a much deeper, more important journey. It is the journey of learning to see the unseen forces that shape our emotional world, and discovering the ancient, unshakable strength required to protect our own peace. There is a strange and heavy guilt that comes with feeling bad when you believe you shouldn't. It's a uniquely modern affliction. We look at our lives on paper, the roof over our head, the food in our fridge, the connections we maintain, and we measure our reality against a checklist of gratitude. When our inner world doesn't match the outer one, when we are filled with a quiet dread despite our blessings, we turn the blame inward. We tell ourselves we are broken, ungrateful, weak. This is the emotional conflict that traps so many of us. This profound sense of confusion. We feel guilty for our own exhaustion. And so we try harder. We give more of ourselves away. We double down on the very relationships that feel the heaviest, believing that our effort, our sheer force of will eventually tip the scales toward peace. We believe that if we are just a little kinder, a little more patient, a little more accommodating, the dynamic will finally change, but it never does. The weight only gets heavier. The problem isn't our lack of effort. It's not a failure of our character. It's a failure of our awareness. We have never been taught that our emotional energy is a finite and precious resource, perhaps the most valuable one we have. And we fail to recognize that we are often surrounded by unseen architects of anxiety, people who, whether they mean to or not, construct labyrinths of drama, criticism, and neediness around us. And we, in our noble quest to be a good son, a good daughter, a good friend, a good partner, willingly walk into these structures every single day, leaving a piece of ourselves behind each time. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and became one of the most revered thinkers of his time, gave us a key to escape this prison. He said that the chief task in life is a simple one: to separate what is within our control from what is not. This sounds simple, but it is the hardest work we will ever do. We mistakenly believe that other people's feelings are our responsibility. We think their dramas are ours to solve. We believe their perception of us is something we can shape and manage. This is the fundamental error, the crack in our foundation that makes the whole house unstable. We are trying to control the weather. We are trying to command the tides. We are trying to control the uncontrollable, and it is draining. The very life from us. The resolution, then, begins not with a loud confrontation, but with a quiet realization. It begins not with trying to change them, but with understanding ourselves and confronting the misguided beliefs we hold about where our responsibility ends and where theirs must begin. Imagine for a moment that your inner world, your mind, your peace is a house. For many of us, this house has no doors. It has no locks. It is wide open to the world. And so people wander in and out as they please. They track mud across the clean floors of our good moods. They sit on the furniture of our thoughts and recount their own troubles for hours. They leave their emotional baggage in the corner, expecting us to sort through it. And when they leave, the house is a mess. It is filled with their anxieties, their dramas, their noise. And we, the dutiful homeowners, spend all our precious energy sweeping, scrubbing, and tidying up the chaos they left behind, only for them to return the next day and do it all over again. We never stop to think that maybe the problem isn't the visitors. The problem is that we haven't built a door. Think of that feeling. You've just finished a long day. You finally get a moment alone. You close your door, you sit in the quiet, you shut your eyes, but you find no peace. Instead, your mind becomes a movie screen, replaying the day's conversations. You hear the subtle criticism from a coworker. You feel the frantic energy from a friend's panicked text message. You carry the heavy weight of a parent's disappointment. You feel their presence even in their absence. Their anxieties have become your anxieties. Their problems have become your homework. You are in your own room, but you are not alone. Have you ever felt this? This sense that your mind is not your own? The journey we are on is about learning to become the architect of our own inner sanctuary. It's about building a door, installing a lock, and learning to decide who and what gets to come inside. The emotional shift is from this state of porous, defenseless vulnerability to one of conscious, internal stability. It's the shift from being a victim of our emotional environment to becoming its calm and deliberate curator. There's a voice in your life that you have mistaken for helpful. The first sign that you are giving your peace away is the steady presence of a constant critic. This isn't the person who offers you honest, constructive feedback from a place of love and a desire to see you grow. That is a gift. No, this is something else entirely. This is a pattern, a system of communication that, no matter the context, leaves you feeling smaller. It's a slow, steady erosion of your self-worth, delivered one casual comment at a time. The critic could be anyone. A parent who prefaces every piece of advice with, "I'm only telling you this for your own good." A partner who looks at the one dish you forgot to wash, ignoring the 9 you already cleaned. A friend who hears your good news and immediately points out a potential pitfall, framing their pessimism as just being realistic. They possess a unique talent for finding the flaw in every success, the cloud around every silver lining, the single mistake in a sea of effort. You spend an entire weekend cleaning the house. They walk in and point to the one spot you missed. You share a project you're proud of at work. They find a typo. You tell them you're starting a new health routine. They remind you of all the other times you tried and failed. After every interaction, you are left with a quiet, hollow feeling, a nagging sense that you are not quite good enough, that you are, in some fundamental way, always falling short. The most dangerous part of this is that, over time, you begin to internalize their voice. Their criticism becomes the soundtrack to your life. You start to see yourself through their eyes. You anticipate their judgment so well that you begin criticizing yourself before they even get the chance, hoping to beat them to the punch. You become your own constant critic. The Roman philosopher Seneca, a man who advised an emperor and navigated the treacherous waters of power and betrayal, understood this internal battle intimately. He wrote, in a letter to a friend, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This is the key that unlocks the critic's cage. Their words, their judgments, their constant evaluations, these are not reality. They are imagination. Specifically, their imagination. Their words only have power over you if you grant it to them. The Stoic resolution is not to fight back. It is not to argue or to present a long list of evidence for your own worth. That is still playing their game by their rules. The true practice is to create a silent, sacred space between their words and your emotional response. In that space, you can observe their criticism not as a truth about you, but as a piece of information about them. What does this criticism say about their own fears, their own insecurities, their own rigid worldview? Suddenly, their words are no longer a weapon aimed at you, but a confession of their own inner state. You learn to see their judgment as an external event, as neutral as the sound of rain on a window. You do not control the rain, and you do not control their opinion. The metaphor that guides us here is that of a distorted mirror. The constant critic spends their life holding up a mirror to you. But this mirror is not clean and true. It is a funhouse mirror, warped, cracked, and smeared with grime. It magnifies every flaw and shrinks every strength. It shows you a reflection that is monstrous, awkward, and incompetent. And for years, maybe your whole life, you have been contorting your body and your soul, trying to look good in this broken mirror. You've been trying to stand in just the right way to hide the distorted parts, to find an angle where you look acceptable. It is an exhausting, impossible task. The emotional breakthrough, the moment of freedom, is when you realize the reflection is not you. The mirror is the problem. The Stoic path is to simply lower the mirror, to turn away from it, to stop looking to it for your sense of self. It is to begin trusting the image of yourself that you have built from your own actions, your own integrity, your own virtues. Think of a specific moment. You're sitting at your desk at work. You've just finished a report that you poured your heart into. You feel a rare sense of pride. You send it off. A few minutes later, an email from the critic arrives. It's not about the 99% of the report that was brilliant. It's about the one statistic they think is questionable. And just like that, you feel that hot flush of shame. The pride evaporates, replaced by anger and defensiveness. The work that felt so meaningful just moments ago now feels foolish, and you feel exposed. What if in that moment you could choose a different path? What if you could read those words, take a breath, and create that sacred space? What if you could ask yourself, is this judgment true? Or is it simply an opinion from one person, with one perspective on one day? Is their criticism more powerful than my own effort and intention? The emotional shift happens right there. It is the shift from hurt and defensiveness to a state of objective, quiet calm. It's the moment you can read their words and think to yourself with genuine neutrality. That is their opinion. It is a piece of data. It does not have to be my reality. You are no longer a defendant in the courtroom of their judgment. You are a neutral observer of their behavior. And in that observation, you find your peace. You take back your power. Not by shouting, but by becoming still. There are people who are addicted to chaos, and they will try to make you their drug. The second sign is the presence of the stormbringer, the drama magnet. Being in a relationship with this person is like living in a coastal town during permanent hurricane season. The emotional conflict is the deep exhaustion that comes from being perpetually on high alert. Your nervous system is constantly humming, waiting for the next emergency siren. Stormbringers thrive on chaos. Peace is boring to them. Stability is stagnant. Their life is a movie, and they are the star of a never-ending thriller. There is always a new villain, a new betrayal, a new injustice, a new crisis. They communicate in frantic text messages, urgent voicemails, and breathless conversations. They have an almost magical ability to pull you into their vortex. They will make their problem your problem, and they will make it urgent. You are not just a friend. You are their emergency contact, their strategist, their confidant, their emotional first responder. And you are on call 24/7. You feel a deep sense of obligation to help. You want to be a good friend, a supportive family member. But you also feel your own sanity fraying at the edges. Your peace is constantly being sacrificed at the altar of their chaos. You find your own plans, your own quiet moments, being interrupted and hijacked by their latest manufactured disaster. You go to bed thinking about their problems. You wake up thinking about their problems. You have, without realizing it, become a supporting character in their drama, and you've forgotten the plot of your own life. Here again, we turn to Epictetus and his simple, life-altering rule, the dichotomy of control. You must learn to relentlessly, ruthlessly distinguish between what is yours and what is not yours. Their emotional storms are not yours. Their frantic search for an enemy is not yours. Their inability to find peace is not yours. Your job is not to calm their storm. Your job is to make sure it doesn't sink your ship. The Stoic practice is to begin, brick by brick, building an inner fortress of tranquility. A place inside you that is weatherproof. When the Stormbringer arrives at your gates, drenched in the rain of their latest panic, you do not have to let them flood your home. You can stand firmly within your walls. You can speak to them through the gate. You can offer a calm word, a moment of quiet listening, a compassionate presence. But you refuse to be swept away by their tide. You do not get drawn into the gossip. You do not offer frantic, unsolicited solutions. You do not take sides. You become a point of stillness in their spinning world. This, in fact, is the most genuinely helpful thing you can do for them. But more importantly, it is what you must do for yourself. The metaphor we use is a turbulent sea. The Stormbringer is the chaotic, unpredictable ocean. The waves of their panic and urgency crash against the shore of your life, relentlessly. A novice sailor, a person who doesn't understand, tries to fight the sea. They scream at the waves. They try to bail out the entire ocean with a small bucket. They exhaust themselves in a futile battle against nature itself, and they inevitably capsize. But a wise Stoic sailor accepts the nature of the sea. They do not try to stop the waves. They understand the sea will be what it will be. Instead, they turn their attention to their own vessel. Is my boat sound? Is the hull strong? Is my cargo my inner peace, my tranquility secured and tied? Down, they learn to navigate. They learn to steer into the waves, to ride them with skill and respect, without letting the cold water flood their own boat. They know that this storm, like all storms before it, will eventually pass. Their job is simply to endure, to remain steady, to keep their own ship afloat. Think of that specific, all too familiar feeling. It's late. You're finally unwinding. Your phone buzzes on the nightstand. You see their name flash on the screen, and you feel it instantly, a spike in your heart rate. A shot of adrenaline. You hesitate before answering, physically bracing yourself for whatever drama awaits. And in that moment of hesitation, a war rages inside you. The person you feel you should be, the ever-available supportive friend, is at war with the person you desperately need to be, the one who protects their own peace. What if you could end that war? What if the choice wasn't between being a good friend and a bad friend, but between being a reactive person and a responsive one? Could it be that true friendship isn't about joining someone in their panic, but about offering them a stable place to rest? Could you be a lighthouse instead of another drowning sailor? The emotional shift we are seeking is from that state of anxious Pavlovian reactivity to one of grounded, chosen non-reactivity. It is the moment their name flashes on your phone, and instead of a spike of anxiety, you feel a quiet, centered resolve. You can choose to answer. You can choose to listen. You can offer true, calm compassion. But you no longer allow their hurricane to make landfall in your soul. You keep the storm where it belongs, outside. There's a heaviness in your life that does not belong to you. The third sign is the presence of the perpetual victim of fate. This person lives inside a story where they are completely powerless. They are the noble, suffering protagonist in a world that is designed to defeat them. Their boss is unfair. Their partner is unsupportive. Their family doesn't understand. The universe itself seems to have a personal vendetta against them. Emotional conflict for you is a thick, draining mixture of guilt and powerlessness. You are a kind person. When you see suffering, your natural instinct is to help. You listen to their endless list of complaints, their litany of misfortunes, and you spring into action. You become a problem solver. You offer advice. You brainstorm solutions. You share resources. But you quickly and painfully learn that every single solution you offer is met with a sigh and the two most draining words in the English language. Yes, but ... Yes, but you don't understand. Yes, but I've already tried that. Yes, but it's more complicated than that. You soon realize they are not looking for solutions. They are looking for something else, an audience, a witness to their powerlessness. They need you to validate their story that they are helpless. Being with them feels like trying to pour water into a bucket with no bottom. You pour in your energy, your optimism, your care, your time, and it all just runs out, leaving you empty and them unchanged. You walk away from the conversation feeling more exhausted than if you'd run a physical marathon. And worse, you often feel a sense of guilt, a feeling that you have failed them, that you weren't smart enough or caring enough to fix their intractable problems. The Stoic resolution comes from the great Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, writing in his private journal, not for an audience, but for himself. He gave us a powerful reframe. He said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the philosophy of the warrior, the creator, the survivor. It says that obstacles are not the end of the path. They are the path. The victim of fate lives by the opposite creed. They believe that obstacles are proof that the path is not worth walking. The Stoic response is to accept the profound and painful limits of your own responsibility. You cannot carry someone who refuses to walk on their own 2 feet. You cannot save someone who is determined to drown. The resolution is not to become cold or cruel, but to become wise. It is to set firm, compassionate emotional boundaries. You must stop being a dispenser of solutions. You must stop taking on their narrative of helplessness as your own problem to solve. You must understand that their worldview is a prison. They may not have built the original walls, but now they are the ones who patrol the guards and reinforce the bars. You do not have the key. Only they do. Our guiding metaphor here is a dense fog. When you enter into a conversation with the victim of fate, it's like their perspective rolls in like a thick, cold, gray fog. It surrounds you. It obscures all sense of possibility, all hope, all personal agency. Inside their fog, every idea is foolish, every plan is doomed, every glimmer of light is just an illusion. You can spend all of your energy waving your arms, trying to part the fog for them, trying to show them the sunlight that you know is just beyond. But it is useless. You cannot clear another person's fog. The only sane and truly compassionate action is to recognize that you have walked into a patch of fog, and to calmly, deliberately take a step out of it, to walk back into the clear air and warm sunlight of your own rational, empowered mind. Consider that relatable draining moment. You've just gotten off the phone with them. You had plans for your afternoon. You were going to read or work on a project or go for a walk. But now you just sit there in the silence, staring at a wall. You feel heavy, hollowed out. You've taken on their entire emotional burden like a heavy, wet coat, and it's chilling you to the bone. You feel a deep sense of pity for them, but it is mixed with a frustrating, churning powerlessness. What if that feeling of powerlessness was actually a signal, a compass pointing you back toward the truth? What if the most compassionate thing you can do for someone is to refuse to participate in their illusion of helplessness? What if your calm, bounded presence is a greater gift than your frantic, failed attempts to fix them? The emotional shift is from feeling responsible and guilty to becoming compassionate but detached. It is a subtle but life-changing transformation. It's the moment you can listen to their story of woe, nod and say with genuine empathy, "That sounds incredibly difficult," and then stop, You don't offer advice. You don't jump in. You simply bear witness without taking ownership. You preserve your energy not through an act of callousness, but through an act of profound wisdom. You let their fog be their fog, and you stand in the sun. Your ambition is a flame, and there are those who will try to extinguish it with praise. The fourth sign is perhaps the most insidious, the most difficult to detect, because it hides in plain sight. It is the subtle underminer. This is not the overt, angry critic. This person is often charming, friendly, even supportive on the surface. But they are a master of the emotional sleight of hand. They chip away at your confidence with 1,000 tiny, paper-thin cuts, and you often don't even realize you're bleeding. The emotional conflict here is a slow, creeping fog of confusion and self-doubt. You start to question your own judgment, your own sanity. Their primary weapon is the backhanded compliment. "Wow, you got the job. I'm so surprised they hired someone from your background. You must have really impressed them." Or, "That presentation was great. A little wordy, but great." It's the joke that has a sharp, painful sting of truth to it, and when you react, they say, "What? I'm just kidding. Can't you take a joke?" It's the way they meet your exciting news, your new relationship, your new creative project, your decision to go back to school, with a look of faint, feigned concern. They'll ask a question that is designed to plant a seed of doubt. "Oh, that's brave. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of commitment?" They subtly celebrate your failures with a sympathetic, "I told you so," disguised as comfort. "Oh honey, I was worried this would happen. You just aim so high sometimes." Over time, you begin to second-guess everything. Your instincts feel off. Your ambitions feel naive. Their quiet, concerned, questioning voice becomes a permanent resident in your head, a poison that weakens your resolve from the inside out. You stop trusting yourself. Seneca, in his letters, gave stern and practical advice on the company we keep. He wrote simply, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." He saw the people around us not as incidental characters, but as active forces that are either elevating us or degrading us, moment by moment. There is no neutral ground. The Stoic path here is not one of dramatic, explosive confrontation. That would only give the underminer more material, more drama to work with. The path is one of quiet, deliberate, internal action. The first and most important step is to learn to trust your own feelings again. If an interaction with someone consistently leaves you feeling confused, small, or doubtful about yourself, trust that feeling. It is your emotional immune system telling you that something is toxic. Stop looking for proof. The feeling is the proof. The resolution is to cultivate a powerful, unshakable inner conviction, to become a fierce and silent guardian of your own ambition. This means you must stop seeking their validation. You must stop bringing your fragile, beautiful new ideas to them for approval. They are the wrong audience. You are trying to get a suntan in a dark cave. Our metaphor for this struggle is a flickering fire. Your passion, your ambition, your goals, your self-belief. This is your inner fire. It's what keeps you warm in a cold world. The subtle underminer knows better than to dump a whole bucket of water on it. That would be too obvious, too aggressive. It would expose them for what they are. So instead, they walk by casually every single day, and with a smile, they toss a small single handful of damp sand onto the embers. One handful does nothing. You barely notice it. But over weeks and months and years, the sand accumulates. The fire struggles for oxygen. It has to work harder and harder to burn. It gets lower and weaker until it's just a pale, flickering light, in danger of going out completely. The Stoic's job is to become the stonemason of their own soul. It is to recognize the slow accumulation of sand and to begin building a protective wall of stone around that precious fire. Not an aggressive wall to keep everyone out, but a wise wall to keep the dampness away. This wall is built of self-trust, of seeking out supportive voices, and of the quiet, firm decision to no longer share your fire with people who only carry sand in their pockets. Remember a specific moment. You were so excited. You just signed up for a class, or decided to write a book, or planned a solo trip. Your heart was full of possibility. You shared the news with this person, looking for that spark of shared joy. Instead, you were met with that slight, knowing smile that tilted the head of concern. And that one perfectly crafted question designed to let all the air out of your balloon. Are you sure that's a good idea right now with everything else you have going on? And you feel it. Your excitement instantly deflates. You feel foolish. You feel naive. Could it be that this feeling is a compass, pointing you away from them and back toward yourself? What if you decided that your dreams were no longer up for discussion with people who don't have the imagination to hold them? The emotional shift is from that state of confused, deflated hope to one of clear-eyed, quiet self-protection. It is the calm, conscious decision to stop auditioning for a role in their small, cautious play and to start writing your own epic story. You learn to guard your fire, not with anger, but with a quiet, powerful love for your own potential. You feel invisible because you are being treated as a utility, not a person. The fifth and final sign is the empty well. This describes a relationship that is built on a foundation of profound imbalance. It is a one-way street of emotional traffic. The conflict for you is a slow-building sense of being used and unseen, which eventually curdles into a deep and lonely resentment. This person comes to you for everything. They are a connoisseur of your energy. They need your advice on their career. They need your shoulder to cry on after their latest relationship drama. They need your undivided attention as they recount, in excruciating detail, their minor daily struggles. The conversation is always, without exception, about their life, their problems, their feelings, their successes. You have become an expert on the cast of characters in their life. You know their boss's name, their landlord's quirks, their exes. New partner. But when your day comes, when the script flips, when you are the one who is struggling, when you are the one feeling lost or heartbroken, when you desperately need someone to listen, they are suddenly, mysteriously, unavailable. Or worse, they perform a conversational magic trick. They will listen for a minute, offer a quick dismissive platitude like, "Oh, that's tough. You'll be fine," and then expertly pivot the conversation right back to themselves. "That reminds me of this thing that happened to me today. You begin to feel less like a friend and more like a free service. A 24-hour emotional support hotline. A human utility, as necessary and as unthanked as the plumbing or the electricity. You exist for their consumption. And the resentment builds because you are giving something so precious, your presence, your empathy, and getting nothing in return. It feels like starvation." Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, wrote constantly about his duty to others, his connection to the human community. But he also understood the critical need for self-preservation. He knew that to be a good emperor, a good general, a good man, he could not allow himself to be depleted to the point of collapse. The Stoic resolution is not to become a selfish recluse, but to practice a form of virtuous self-valuation. It is to finally, truly understand that your time, your emotional energy, and your focused attention are your most precious, non-renewable assets. The resolution is to stop giving them away for free to anyone who asks. It's about understanding that a reciprocal relationship is like breathing. There is an inhale and an exhale. It nourishes both people. A parasitic relationship has only an exhale. It drains one person to temporarily inflate the other. You have been exhaling for a very long time. It is time to learn to breathe in. The metaphor that captures this perfectly is the village well. Imagine you are the well, dug deep into the earth, filled with the cool, clear water of empathy, wisdom, and support. The empty well is a thirsty villager. They come to you every single day with their bucket, And because you are a good well, you let them lower it down and draw as much as they need. They drink deeply. They water their own garden. They fill their own tubs, but they never once think about where the water comes from. They never help to maintain the well. They never worry about a drought. They never notice that with each bucket they draw, the water level gets a little lower, a little murkier, until one day they lower their bucket and all they hear is a hollow, lonely thud against dry stone. You have run dry, and all you have left to give is the echoing sound of their needs in your own emptiness. Think of that specific, painful moment. It's been a terrible week. You feel lost. You finally work up the courage to be vulnerable, to reach out to this person who has leaned on you so many times. You call them. You take a deep breath and you start to explain what's been happening. You get maybe 45 seconds in and they interrupt. "Oh, wow. I know exactly what you mean. That reminds me ... And for the next 20 minutes, you listen to their story, which is only vaguely related to yours. You hang up the phone feeling more profoundly alone and more foolish than you did before you called. What if that feeling of foolishness was a teacher? What if it was telling you that you are trying to get water from a mirage? Could it be that your resentment is not a sign of your own bitterness, but a righteous signal from your soul that your generosity is being abused? The emotional shift is from that place of bitter resentment and invisibility to a quiet, dignified sense of self-worth. It is the moment you realize that your well is a sacred place. It is for you first and foremost, and for those who are willing to bring water as well as take it. It's the moment you learn to say one of the most powerful and liberating sentences in the human language. "I'm sorry, but I don't have the capacity for that right now." And when you say it, you don't feel a pang of guilt. You feel the deep, quiet, radical peace of self-respect. You begin, finally, to replenish your own well. After walking through these 5 signs, after identifying the critics, the stormbringers, the victims, the underminers, and the empty wells in our own lives, a powerful feeling can rise up: anger. A righteous, burning anger. It is so tempting to take this new knowledge and forge it into a sword, to make a list of names, to pass judgment, to cut ties, to exile the guilty parties from the kingdom of our lives. It feels like the final powerful step, but this is the precise moment where Stoic philosophy asks us to do the hardest thing of all. It asks us to take a sharp 90-degree turn. The most profound, life-altering insight is this: these people are not the real problem. They are the symptom. They are the fever that alerts you to the infection. They are the inspectors sent by the universe to test the structural integrity of your own inner world. The true climax of this entire journey is not about pointing the finger of blame outward. It is about turning the gaze, with courage and honesty, inward. The problem is not that these draining people exist in the world. The problem is that we have given them the key to our house. The problem is that we have handed them the power over our own peace. For years, perhaps for our entire lives, we have allowed our emotional state to be conditional. We have lived by a secret, unconscious set of rules. I will be calm if and only if they are not critical. I will feel at peace if and only if they are not creating drama. I will feel confident if and only if they validate me. I will feel energized if and only if they give back. We have made our inner tranquility utterly dependent on the behavior of deeply unpredictable, uncontrolled external forces. This, according to Epictetus, is the very definition of slavery. To be a slave is to place your well-being in the hands of another. We have, with the best of intentions, enslaved ourselves at the transformational moment, the reframing that can change. Everything is the realization that true freedom, true power, is the act of unconditionally reclaiming full and total ownership of your inner world. Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet of his tent during military campaigns, surrounded by death and chaos, wrote again and again about the one place no one could ever conquer, the inner citadel. This was his metaphor for a fortress of the mind, a place of reason, calm, and perspective that is untouchable by anything that happens in the outside world. He reminded himself, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. And most importantly, he knew that people cannot touch your mind. The critic's words, the stormbringer's chaos, the victim's fog, the underminer's sand, the empty well's demands, these things can batter the outer walls of your life. They can make noise, they can cause a ruckus, but they can never, ever breach the gates of your inner citadel unless you, the commander of the fortress, decide to lower the drawbridge and let them in. Every single time you react with blind anger to a criticism, every time you allow yourself to be pulled into a vortex of drama, every time you feel your confidence crumble from a backhanded compliment, that is the moment you are personally lowering the drawbridge. You are willingly surrendering your fortress. You are handing the keys to someone who doesn't even know they have them. Do you see the shift? The people you have identified are not your enemies. They are your greatest teachers. They are your sparring partners. They are showing you, with painful and perfect precision, exactly where the walls of your own citadel are weak. They are showing you the cracks in your foundation that need repair. They are showing you the work that you, and only you, need to do. This changes the entire emotional landscape. It moves from blame to responsibility, from helplessness to absolute power. The question is no longer, how do I get these people to change? That is the question of a victim. The question becomes, how do I fortify myself so that their behavior is no longer relevant to my state of mind? This is the question of a Stoic. This is the beginning of true, unshakable, internal freedom. The final understanding arrives not like a thunderclap, but like the quiet light of dawn. It spreads slowly, gently, illuminating everything. It lands, not with a bang, but with a deep, calm breath of clarity. The goal was never to build a perfect life free from difficult people. Such a life is a fantasy. It is impossible, and the pursuit of it will only lead to more frustration. The real goal, the achievable goal, the noble goal, is to become the kind of person whose tranquility cannot be disturbed by them. It is to cultivate an inner life so rich, so stable, so sovereign, that the chaos of the outside world remains where it belongs. Outside, let us set aside the metaphor of a fortress, which speaks of war and defense. In this place of resolution, let's use a softer image. Think of your inner world not as a citadel to be defended, but as a quiet garden to be cultivated. The people we have spent this time discussing, the critics, the stormbringers, all of them, they are simply the weather. Some days, the weather will be harsh and critical, a cold, biting wind. Some days it will be foggy and confusing, obscuring the path. Some days it will be a loud, dramatic thunderstorm. The weather is not personal. You cannot control it. And trying to will only lead to madness. But you are the gardener. You can't stop the wind, but you can build a strong trellis to support your growing plants. You can't stop the rain, but you can ensure the soil has good drainage, so the roots don't rot. You can't command the sun to shine, but you can pull the weeds that block the light. You, the gardener, have the ultimate and final say over the health, the beauty, and the resilience of this garden. Every day, you choose what you cultivate. You can spend your precious energy planting seeds of resentment for past hurts. You can water them daily with your attention, replaying old conversations in your mind. And you will grow a garden of bitterness. Or you can choose to cultivate something else. You can plant seeds of resilience. You can tend to the soil of your own mind through quiet reflection, through reading wisdom that strengthens you. You can pull the weeds of reactivity. You can choose with deliberate care what you give your attention to. You can cultivate compassion for yourself and even for the difficult people who taught you so much. You can cultivate a deep, abiding, unshakable peace. The people are the weather, but you are the gardener. Your peace was never theirs to take. It was always, and only, yours to protect. And now, you know how. Subscribe for more.